Oh, it's that time of year again. You know the one where the white media pretends to be shocked and amazed at how people dress on the red carpet. So much pomp and circumstance, all for nothing. And let's not be naive here. I know there's a lot of y'all who, if you're not watching the Oscars live, you're certainly keeping tabs of who wins and who doesn't, as if it's got anything to do with us. So you'll pardon me for interrupting your Oscars vigil. I'll let you get back to it in a few minutes, but you need to hear this truth first. There's a whole lot of black folks who love to be jumping into things that aren't for our benefit and do not glorify or honor us, and yet we're the first ones in line with our hands out hoping we get a piece of something. The last time Jada Pinkett's name was mentioned in regards to an Oscar, without it being a scandal, was when she was complaining that black actors weren't getting nominated. But by that, of course, she was only talking about herself. She was making a plea that she needs to get some sort of nomination. That's because work's drying up for her. Ain't nobody hiring her. Well, they did give an Oscar to her husband, not that anyone remembers that he won it. Hollywood knows what buttons to push with black folks, and the phony obsessing over female fashion on the red carpet, that's all part of the con. It plays to the desire that a lot of women have to be princess for a day. It's a fantasy that Disney built an empire on. But we need to understand their empire is built on our graves. Halle Berry went into hysterics when she got her Oscar. Viola Davis practically went into an epileptic seizure. She said the only thing that separates black actresses from white ones is opportunity, and Hollywood promptly reminded her of that fact. She's unhappy now that the woman king got snubbed. She think was going to happen. That if she got an Oscar, that the doors would suddenly open for her, and it would be no more supporting roles for her, that an Oscar was going to be her entree to the world of being a leading lady? Is that what she thought? I'll tell you what she was thinking. She was thinking she had the female equivalent of the last king of Scotland. Let's not be naive here. Black folks know exactly what it is the white media loves, and they love nothing more than black folks being dysfunctional and fighting each other and engaging in all manner of depravity. That's what most of the Oscars are given for to black folks. Black people know full well what the white media wants to see us do, and it's not to be a black person who's actually in charge or in command of any situation, certainly not a black person who's in charge or command over white people. They don't want to see that. Denzel Washington gave tons of Oscar-worthy performances, but the only ones the white media saw fit to give him an Oscar for was playing a slave in Glory and a hideously crooked cop in Training Day. He wasn't being awarded for his performance. That was the white academy trying to legitimize praising black subservience and corruption. That was about making something prominent that was harmful to us. Forrest Whitaker, same thing. He gave a bunch of awesome performances before the last king of Scotland, and he's given a number of them since, but the white academy doesn't seem to notice those. The late, great Michael Clark Duncan was a very good actor. But we all know the real reason he was nominated for an Oscar after he was in the Green Mile. And as for Halle Berry, well, I honestly can't say she's given an Oscar-worthy anything in her entire career, but we all know why she was given an Oscar for Monsters Ball. And you expect me to respect an organization that uses the largest stage in entertainment to exalt portrayals of black people as slaves, criminals, and hot-to-trot thoughts? Now, for a few years, at least since 2020, the white media's Oscars have been saying that they want to have more people of color nominated for awards, that maybe they would start putting some guidelines in place and actually saying that they wanted to have certain benchmarks to be reached. Well, they certainly kept their word on that one, after a fashion. This year, there's more Asians nominated for awards than black people. And you'll notice that I didn't include the Best Actor category, and that's because this year, all of the Best Actor nominees are white, every single one of them. Well, so much for things changing in Hollywood, huh? Your good white liberals out in California who claim to be so progressive and told you they were dedicated to diversity and inclusion, they're showing you that was a bald-faced lie. But then again, who was dumb enough to go for it? They're dedicated to pacifying black folks with some insincere words, and if you bought any of their claptrap, you got no one to blame but yourself. They were lying. It was obvious they were lying, and that their goal was going to be the same thing that we see from white politicians, making sure that anyone and everyone can leapfrog black people and that black people get left behind. Black people make the most noise, hence black people have to be undermined. The only reason that the Academy made the few insincere noises that they made was because we put them on the hot seat. Black people did it, starting with the whole Oscars so white thing. And in 2020, it was our protests that made all of the white media have to change their tune. Well, now it's time to see if anything has changed, and we see that they're doubling down on ethnically erasing us. Michelle Yeoh and others are saying how great it would be to have Asians sweep the Oscars this year. And she's not alone. The almost entirely white membership of the Academy also thinks that spotlighting anyone other than black people would be a great idea too. Not because they like Asians, they don't, but because they see black people as a unique threat to the status quo, a threat that no other segment of the society presents them with. And we're supposed to be very, very suspicious, if not outright in opposition to these so-called awards shows. Awards, quote unquote, are nothing more than a way to bestow instant legitimacy on someone. That's what it's meant to do. You got some small group of people who you're not part of, and they say, well, here's this person or this group or this thing over here, and we're going to give it an award. We're going to put it on a pedestal, hold this up as some sort of true expression of actual merit. The U.S. Army defines legitimacy as authority conferred on a group or a person by another person or group. And just because you and I don't give these bootlicks any legitimacy, that's not to say we're the only source of it. We're not the only ones who can bestow legitimacy. White supremacy's economy is based on lies. But that's not to say they don't have real power, and it's not to say that they can't make their lies into someone else's reality. They can, and they do. So they go ahead and give you a stage, make sure all the cameras are on you. They have everybody dress up as if they're going to some sort of ambassador party or something. Oh, you better be dressed to the nines. And then they sit around and give people awards for playing slaves and thoughts. This is how you get a Lee Daniels, or an Agent Duvernay, or a Tyler Perry. And white power has given them legitimacy. That's why you often see white media websites saying that these bootlicks have the ability to green light a movie or a TV show or something. White power has them on the short list of approved Negroes. And for black celebrities, just to get a pat on the head means more to them than a paycheck. Sure, they want money if they can get it. But what they really want, the real reason that they came out to LA, wasn't to seek their fame and fortune. It was to get some gesture of acceptance from the same racists who trash black people's image day in and day out. The bootlicks in Tinseltown want to escape blackness. Prime example is Idris Elba. He was quoted in the media not so long ago saying that he no longer wants to be labeled as a black actor. Now, he tried to clean that faux pas up afterwards by saying that he was talking about his profession as an actor. After all, he wouldn't want his race to be applied to his acting any more than he would want it applied if he was an architect. He claims identifying as a black actor put him in a box. No, the white media types who he's trying to appease and to suck up to, they're the ones who put him in a box. Being a black actor does not have any sort of detriment to it except for the fact you got to get your acting opportunities and your money from a bunch of white supremacist anti-black racists. That's the reason why Idris Elba had to come all the way to the other side of the Atlantic just so he could have himself a career, because he wasn't getting anything over there in Britain. He owes everything he has to the fight that black people put up over here, and we didn't do it so that we could be some color-blind, non-racial group. We did it for the sake of making sure that black has the honor and esteem that it deserves. Without us, Idris Elba wouldn't exist. He spent many years in Britain trying to be some post-racial figure, and it got him absolutely nowhere. Who's he trying to fool now? Himself, perhaps? This is why I have a big problem with these Negroes in Hollywood, and when they show up, I get on guard. They're all trying to climb the ladder, and they all know that there's one surefire way to do that: show the white media moguls that they're not a threat. The white media is not in the business of entertainment. They're in the business of mind control, and they do it through the use of fraudulent images and lying narratives. Part of how they lie is through the censoring of images. The reason for that is human beings are visual creatures. We take in something on the order of 75 to 80% of all of our information strictly through our eyes. We very rarely listen, and we almost never touch anything or ask any questions. Our other senses almost never come into play. Basically, it's mostly looking and looking alone, and just listening a little bit. And all too often, we tend to believe what we see and to imitate it. From The Matrix to Menace to Society, when Hollywood glamorizes or popularizes something, people tend to imitate it. Look at how young people dress and speak, and you can tell what their favorite TV show, music entertainer, or movie is. And what really makes the white media's control so insidious is that when you ask these young people if they think that they're influenced by the movies and TV shows and magazines they see, they'll tell you that they aren't, even though you can look at them or listen to them and clearly tell that they are. See, as black folks, the white media makes sure that we don't get featured prominently on anything, not if it's something that black people chose. Hollywood makes sure to ethnically cleanse us from their mediums, except in the last 10 or 15 years, they've made one exception. If a black person identifies themselves as LGBT, then they'll go ahead and say, okay, well, you can get a movie role, or we'll put you on the cover of a magazine. But LGBT isn't black. White supremacy is not based on homophobia or whatever. There's nothing in the Constitution about the LGBT lifestyle. There are, however, parts of the Constitution about the subjugation and disenfranchisement of black people. So LGBT is not a threat to white supremacy. That's why they can afford to make an exception for it. Hollywood's sending the message that the only way they're going to put a black person in their media prominently is if they make sure not to remind people that you're black. Make sure you remind people that you're trying to distance yourself from your blackness. You're an immigrant, or you're LGBT, or like Idris Elba, I'm non-racial altogether. That's what it's been. Where are the depictions of happy, functioning, well-adjusted black couples? Where do we see depictions of a black man and a black woman coinciding peacefully and progressively together? Where do you see that in the white media? Oh, they'll show you a black person on screen or on the cover of a magazine, but they can be in a couple only if it's LGBT. And that's comforting to them because as far as they're concerned, well, if we have a heterosexual couple, they might have children. And well, that's disturbing. So we'll keep it to LGBT because there's less chance of them adopting a child. And that's something we can live with. That's what they do. And because black is ignored and treated as invisible, these black folks in Hollywood who are so desperate to get in front of a camera, they'll trip over themselves to go ahead and play the white media's game. Am I black? No, I'm not black. I don't identify as black. That puts me in a box. You don't hear anybody from the LGBT community saying that. Idris Elba thinks he's about to become a big movie star now. So he's broadcasting loudly and clearly that he'll be a good boy. After 500 years, black people on both sides of the Atlantic know full well exactly what white power wants to see from us. We've always known exactly how to appeal to the dominant society and how low you have to stoop in order to be in their good graces. And you gotta stoop pretty low indeed. So this is why you need the black media and why we don't go chasing the approval of black celebrities. We're not trying to do any clout chasing around here. Now, sure, there are a number of black celebrities who see through the BS, Judge Joe Brown, Sister Tachina Arnold, and others, but let's be honest, they're the exceptions, not the rule. Then again, what else would you expect from an industry run by dyed-in-the-wool white supremacists who get to choose exactly who's going to be in front of the TV camera or the movie screen and what those people will do when they're on that screen? A lot of them will sell their souls just for a gold statuette or a pat on the head, and they'll cry like babies if they don't get it. Neither these white media moguls nor these white actors in Hollywood are going to respect these black celebrities because too many of them lack the character to respect themselves. We all know that Oscar wins don't translate into bigger paychecks on your next movie. Tom Cruise is the highest paid actor on the planet. His movie Top Gun Maverick has been nominated for Best Picture this year. I gotta wonder how much money Jerry Bruckheimer paid to get that one done. But Tom Cruise isn't going to the Oscars. He's not even going to show up. You want to know why? He's too busy making the next Mission Impossible movie. And as much as I can't stand Tyler Perry, there's no denying that he did the right thing by setting up his own operation out there in Atlanta. He doesn't have to ask a single white media mogul for anything. I hate what he puts on the screen, but you can't knock the hustle and the fact that he understood that he has to have total autonomy. See, the people who are taking care of their business aren't whining like Jada Pinkett about why they can't get an Oscar. They're not trying to get an award. They're trying to get paid. And as I'm sure Tom Cruise would tell you, you don't get that done at the Oscars. You don't get $45 and $50 million paychecks by getting a gold statuette. An Academy Award doesn't get you those tens of millions of dollars in acting fees. We keep putting social acceptance ahead of tangibles, and that ain't the business. So no, I won't be tuning into the Oscars this year or any other year because it doesn't matter. Hollywood throws itself a party, but if you actually believe that it's not just white media types congratulating other white media types, then the joke is on you. Good evening, and be one. I'd like to take a moment to mention some of our contributors: Codified Trucking, Ginger Vine, Bobby Williams, Wesley Monroe, and Anthony Jones. Salute to them and thank you to everyone for listening, liking, and sharing this message. Black empowerment only exists because of you.